One sec.
There, students, parents, teachers from across CIS. Welcome to the first Student Council webinar. I'm ZNotes and with me is Russia. Okay, we have been building this event for a month now, and I could not be more excited to introduce you to our guest this evening. He is an influential man who has transformed learning within the internet, and for thousands of IGCSE, A-level, and AS-level students, who have used his simplified explanations for a range of topics to score those marks during their board. Our guest today has begun this simple yet ingenious platform at the age of 16 and built it to its current high standards ever since. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to Mr. Zubair Junjunia, founder of ZNotes. So Zubair, there's a plethora of questions Rasha and I would like to get to, but none more important than asking how. How have you built this revision platform from scratch and developed it while still breaking through the barriers of your AS and A-level exams?
Hi guys, thank you so much. It's nice to be on the other end of the interview system, because now I'm being asked rather than asking questions. Really good questions, and I'm really excited to kind of share a little bit of insight from my journey. I don't think it's the perfect journey, or there have been like ups and downs. So please, everyone, take this with a pinch of salt. I'm sure there's a lot to learn from. So to get started, yeah, how did it happen? Honestly, it was not planned. It was really, I realized as I was kind of coming out of the GCSE, IGCSE exams, it was like, how are there so many students all over the world, and especially those literally around me? There was a school neighboring mine, and I could see that these students would also be taking the same exams, and yet they won't have access to textbooks. The quality of teaching will be so varied. And what I had done across just to study really was to put together a set of really good resources. And I thought, if I have these kind of PDF documents which are ready, what can I do with it? So I put together a blog. I was messing around with WordPress at the time, I think, and that's all. I just uploaded it there, and I think the story just starts from there. I think it was no kind of foresight. It wasn't even planned to be anything to do with a community. It really just began with let's see what I can do by putting together some resources and making it available.
Right, Rasha, we don't have your audio.
Nope.
No.
Sorry. That's weird. Do you want to refresh your page? That kind of makes might.
I think until then, like, I'll just cover some ground. So you talked about how like it just started off from a brainchild, right? And I think a lot of students, including myself, have started innovating and having like creative ideas that we always wanted to just build up. So what would you say to those people who want to convert that small little brainchild into something big like ZNotes?
Well, student entrepreneurship is something that's finally getting a lot of visibility and a whole bunch of traction as a path to to life. I'm sure that even when I was at school, entrepreneurship was never something that was like talked about, and yet now everyone is talking about people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos or whatever. They're talking about entrepreneurial spirits. They're talking about how we can have a side project, or they call it a hustle. And it's much more like common topic of discussion these days, which is amazing. I think it's a really important skill. Not if you even if you don't really want to build a business. I didn't set out for ZNotes to become a business, and even now it's still formulating in some form. It's an organization more than a business, but the ability to look for a problem, then think of a solution, and then build that solution that is applicable and usable to many people from all over the world. That the whole journey is probably the most rewarding educational experience you can have, because you have to do everything along the way. You need to empathize with the end users. You have to think about what their challenges really are. You have to come up with solutions which fit today's demographics, today's kind of cultural challenges. You need to think about how do you implement that in the most cost-effective or most technologically sound way, most optimized way. And then you have to, if you do go down the business route, you need to think about, okay, I have the solution. I have a group of people who really could benefit a lot from this solution. How do I
Mhm.
make it? How do I make it so that this organization, this business can be sustainable? How can I make profit? How so? Um, I think the biggest advice I'd be giving to anyone who is like at a situation where they have some sort of idea, some whether it's a business or not, don't think about. I would say the business model is the least important thing across the whole of your entrepreneurial journey. You need to get together a really good problem solution fit, um, and try to build it. So a lot of the times, and you see this a lot in the entrepreneurial space that I've been facing a lot, um, is that people think that we need to make something happen. You have to have investment. You have to have someone
Right.
behind. You have to have a big team. ZNotes didn't need that, and some of the greatest companies in the world have not had to raise investment, and they don't need a whole bunch of kind of people or technology to make it happen. Um, the biggest thing that I would say is bootstrapping. Find whatever tools you can. The internet is now filled with so many pieces of technology that you can use to put together anything you want, from an app to a website to a a fully blown, I don't know, textbook or workbook, whatever you want to create. There's stuff out there. There are free solutions out there. The first website was a WordPress. It actually ended with .wordpress.com, and yeah, it was fine. It worked for me, and I used whatever customization skills I could at the time. I don't think we haven't raised investment ever in our organization's history, and we don't feel like we need to either because we are able to do so much with the tools that are already available to us. So my most important kind of takeaway is just try and get something out there, build something and make it available to people, because your ideas can flourish only from when people are actually using it.
Right. So that perfectly transitions into Russia's question. If we can hear you now, just
Oh,
give
you
it a
can
shot.
hear me now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
perfect.
perfect. Okay, perfect. So, when we open ZNotes and when we are revising, you do have a section that talks a little bit about your team, has contributors and the management, and that is a big team you lead. So,
mhm.
how has managing ZNotes evolved you better as a leader? And how much do you think good leadership impacts the success of the business or the firm?
Absolutely. It's incredible. The first, I still remember, I was in, I think it was the end of year 12 for me, and I got my first email from someone. I started getting comments on the website, but this was the first person who said, "Hey, Zubair, I love what you're doing, but you're only doing this many subjects. What if I can help create, I think it was AS English language or something like that." I'm like, "Yeah, man, sure. Let's do it." And I remember sitting with him, having calls with him, and then putting together the first set of notes, uploading it, and be like, "Wow, we've went from a single person putting together some notes, then a few friends of mine at school doing something together, and now there was someone from across the world who doesn't know me, who's never met me, will never meet me probably in life, who's put so many hours of effort to create something." So I think more than anything, the achievement of Xenos isn't about creating it. I think the achievement of Xenos is about how it's brought people together to do something really invaluable to so many people all over the world. And that's what you see on the team page. You see the beautiful faces of all the hundreds of contributors who've come across during our journey. Um, how has it shaped me as a leader? I think I was a little bit more uh, antisocial, contrived, in my shell kind of person back in the day. And I think, I'm not sure whether what factors there were. There were probably a whole bunch of things going around at this time, but being around these people has taught me to be a more empathetic, sympathetic. Those are different things, and a better leader in general because I've had to realize challenges that other people face. I've had to work between time constraints. Remember, these are people who are just volunteering.
Right.
Yeah,
Did you just get disconnected? All right, we'll give it a small buffer
yeah.
before he comes back. Right.
Meanwhile, Okay, I think we're
All right,
back.
we're back.
Right.
Right.
You are
So
absolutely.
for what I can remember, I'm just going to like drag in your last point. You mentioned how a, trying to come out and get a platform ready and take that, like I said, brainchild into the open makes you more empathetic, more sympathetic,
Yep,
and takes you out of that shell. And I think many
absolutely.
people face that same problem where they may have been antisocial at some point in their life, but when they have that spark or that idea, they want to bring it out to the world, and
Yeah,
that sort of helps in their own personal welfare itself.
yeah. I think
So,
confidence is a key skill that you start to develop.
right.
You don't have an option now. You have to go and speak to people from all over the world, stand in front of stages and give pitches and whatever you need to do. And there's no kind of there's no more like hiding behind a curtain anymore. You have to be out there. You have to be speaking. So the kind of I think I've had a huge learning journey across the way as well because I've been meeting with so many people, interacting with so many people. So being a leader per se, I've
Right.
learned much more than actually I've led in any case.
Are
Right.
you
Yeah.
still opening to expanding your team, Zubair? Would you still consider having someone contribute maybe an extra subject or something?
Absolutely, we're continuously expanding. I think it started with, as I said, one contributor. The contributors have continued to increase. We went from a single person leading the team, myself, and then actually getting more and more people involved, from content to creative to community management. We have people who are moderating the content, people who are coming up with social media posts, and all of that. It's a big task. I could never have this. The ship would not be kind of afloat if it didn't have all these people making sure, and organizing and helping out. So if someone is listening and is interested, definitely reach out. We're looking for more and more contributors to new subject content that we aren't able to supply at this point. So that would be amazing. If it's something to do with the team itself, if you think you have a skill that you'd like to offer and volunteer your time with, yeah, I think my team will also be checking out the comments and stuff. So if you have anything, drop us a message, drop us an email, drop us a DM on Instagram or something. Even that works.
Yeah, most definitely. We have this thing called Ask CIS and a survey that we always put up on our Instagram account. And that sort of encourages our students or
Hmm.
even our teachers, if they are on Instagram, to drop in their ideas for our school. Now, obviously, it starts in the school, right? It starts with what your ideas are for the campus and for distance learning this year. And eventually, that sort of builds up into something greater. And then at some point, you have that, I should pursue this idea and publicize it throughout the world because it's that innovative. So, what would like your tips be to sort of get those students or get anyone? It doesn't have to be students to like show it off into the world, their brainchild.
Um, Really, there isn't much. Like the internet is so easy to just like put something out there, right? Almost
Mm,
harmfully too as well. Like you need to be very careful about what you share and what you say online. But if
right,
you, I would just suggest that there are so many things that have worked out. So when we talk about ZNotes, it looks like it's a polished, beautiful solution that's always been like, perfect. But there have been downfalls along the way. We've had challenges on our website, we've had challenges in the team, we've had challenges in content, and we've overcome these things along the way. Um, it's harder when you get a bit bigger because as you grow, you have if you make a mistake or if your website doesn't has a little bit of issue, 100 people will start emailing you.
mm,
But you shouldn't feel scared about putting stuff out there if you're confident about it. I even aside from ZNote stuff, there's so many different projects that I've started. I write a lot on my own blog, and that's not something that gets a whole bunch of traction, but I still do it. I still put content out there because you don't know what these kind of ideas will form. And remember, we often like to it seems like, at least in the world we're exposed to, it seems like everyone has these brilliant solutions that they
exactly.
Microsoft just like came out of it, just happened. Apple just happened. All these incredible organizations just kind of like just it was just one idea that clicked and worked out. In reality,
Right.
there's so many downfalls. There's so many such a winding journey to get there.
Mm,
When we talk about Steve Jobs, we talk about Apple and his greatest invention of the iPhone. We don't even talk about his all his other ventures which failed along the way, like Next, and I can't even remember. But there are so many things that work out, and you have to remember that all these little concepts, ideas, things you put out there, messages, whatever you do, whatever content you're creating, is actually informing you of something in the future. So even before ZNotes, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but we actually had some. I in year 10, I think I put together like a group of students in my year group, I think, and we just said that, hey, let's create some content and make some revision notes, and let's make it available for our year group. And I remember doing that, and it was just like 7 or 8 of us, and we had a Facebook group, and we did that together. But now that I think back, and I don't know how I remembered as I spoke to you, but that probably was the first iteration of what ZNotes was going to become. The first set of notes looked very different to what they look now. The first set of web pages look very different. Everything evolves. So sometimes it's the evolution of the same product, and sometimes the evolution of different ideas culminating into another product, into another service. And remember, I kind of fallen back into this kind of trap of startups and entrepreneurship. When I'm talking about product services, it sounds a bit of jargon. It sounds like this is a full-blown business. It doesn't have to be. It could be a side project. It could be an Instagram account. It could be something you are doing with your community, your family, with your group of friends. Not everything has to be as glamorous as what the world is now kind of portraying what a successful business looks like, because creating value, especially social value, creating positive social impact for those around you.
Just for a good point.
Yeah.
This is weird. I don't know why my camera keeps dropping out, but let me just.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Sorry about that. It's weird. Today's a
Okay.
few technical difficulties.
Yeah, no, that's
okay.
fine.
That's
All right. So, yeah, like I said, as long as you're passionate about what you do, I think you can do like really big things in life, and like be it literature or academics or music, it doesn't matter. As long as you like strive to be the best, you're going to get somewhere. Like we have a plethora of students in our school itself, in the Innovation Club, where they have their own sort of ideas, and they just like they exhibit it in these governmental platforms, and it brings out not only a sense of community but also like the minds of us teenagers and what we think of being like the future of the world. And it's really amazing if you look into like exhibitions and webinars that showcase these innovations. But one particular concern that a lot of parents and teachers have as well is, alongside doing these extracurricular activities, how would you balance out your examinations? Because I'm sure for you, it must have been difficult at some stage of your life to balance both the concept of ZNotes and AS11 and A levels.
Absolutely. And I think during the A levels times that was a little different because ZNotes wasn't as big, so it took some time, but it wasn't all the time. But during uni, definitely, I've had to.
Yeah.
I've spent 4 years studying math at uni, and not only ZNotes, but all my social activities, being at university, and all your friends and all the things that you do. I was part of different teams, so I'm part of the running team. I did other things. I learned skills like figure skating and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing a whole bunch of like hobbies. I was doing quite a few kind of ZNotes related stuff, going across the country sometimes to give conversations or pitches or whatever. I was maintaining my own social being. I was going out, seeing friends and talking, going out to, I was living in London. So you can imagine like even commuting from one place to another is a whole
social aspect will always be there.
So I'm gonna try, because it's a while. I'm gonna try to kind of bring my learnings from across my university and my high school level times.
Right, guys, take notes.
Exam advice. I think one thing that has really helped me is being organized and planning my time really well. Having a really clear kind of set of days and plans where I knew I was going to achieve a certain topic or a certain paper or a certain subject, even if I wanted to cover it all in one day. That has always been a really, really good guiding principle for me to kind of use. The big thing that I think throws a lot of students off is the fact that we come and sit down and we say that, hey, I'm going to sit down and revise 6 hours today. No, nonstop. I'm going to do it. I'm going to just make it happen. But then you sit on your chair and you think like, oh my gosh, 6 hours. But what am I actually going to do here? Am I going to look at this subject or that subject? And actually, we end up spending a lot of time not studying, but actually thinking about what the hell to do.
Yeah, I'm
So
guilty.
first step is actually thinking about, and that brain power that you're using to just go through your head like, oh, what was that? I didn't really get electrolysis. I need to go back to that textbook. Oh, but I also
Mhm.
don't get this. You're in that stage of, you have so much in your head, and even this trying to studying that you want to get across is not going to happen because you haven't actually like put it down in front of you, and you don't have a clear time schedule that you are like, okay, I know I need to do this at this time. So one thing that's really helpful is that even after, I know this is tough because I know how difficult it was for me at the age of 16, 17 to do this, but after you come back from school, if you can, I would say take a note, but you have your phone, just write even text your friend to say, hey, I didn't really get this, so that you have a log of something that you need to revisit. um During the week, most of us will have a substantial amount of homework to kind of cover. Do it properly, because if you do the homeworks and do the tasks which are being set out, if you maintain the kind of the work ethic right from the start, and if you don't make it like, oh, I need to sit down and study right 2 weeks before the exams, it will actually make life so much easier. You'll actually spend less time in the long run, and you will have more time to enjoy and do all these kind of fun activities. I know lockdown doesn't really allow us to do that, but it will allow you to do all of that without having this huge burden at the end. So I think along the way, I just kept myself dedicated to make sure that, when I was finishing a certain topic or certain thing, I would do the certain tasks associated. And for me, that was writing notes, that was doing a few past paper questions, and that was having like I remember on my wall I had like this. I printed out the syllabus,
Mhm.
the topics, and I just check off. Okay, for example, we covered the syllabus point at school. And then I had another column which said I've covered this in my own revision, and then I had a final column. This was a column which I would do right before the exam. Like, all right, I feel super confident about this. All done. I don't need to think about it again. Um, Obviously, I don't think I need to tell you how important like doing revising content and making sure you're following the syllabus, as well as doing past papers and really practicing and putting it into action. I'm sure you all know how important that is. I would just advise that try to be consistent in your workload, and right from the get-go, try to keep doing little bits of um, work along the way, revising as well. I know when we tend to just wait till like major tests or exams, but if you consistently kind of keep doing something, it will end up being much, much easier in the end.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that is so much more important now. Like we have half our students doing distance learning, and it is so much more easier to get distracted. Oh,
Yeah.
distractions are plenty. It's just one more episode of Netflix, just one more hour of sleep, and organizing will definitely be very important. And another thing that's changing drastically is university applications.
Hmm.
And you know how now university applications have evolved into more than just looking into marks. They do look into extracurriculars. They look
Hmm.
into what you are more as a person. Like even if they don't look at just grades anymore, I think they want to know what you've done besides just getting those grades. And now during COVID, like you mentioned, it's difficult to go out and get those extracurricular activities done. Do you have any advice for that?
So I'm gonna start from the uni part of it, because that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Um, University, especially applying in these days, is a tough challenge. I really am sorry that you guys are facing this, because even though I had my last year was kind of all messed up. I had no graduation ceremony or anything like that, but I got out of it right before things really changed. Um, you're absolutely right. Universities don't think a lot more than just about your grades. Um, Grades are almost like an entry into the door, and then to be accepted is what you are as a human being, what you bring. And extracurricular is one way of saying it, but I would just, because it's said so often, I would just say that it's more about what you what you are as a complete package rather than just extracurricular. Because I know a lot of people who go and sit and do, I don't know, Duke of Edinburgh and all these kind of MUN and whatever they do it just because they want to have that like stamp or that like line in their personal statement. Unfortunately, that is something that, over the years, unis have picked up on the fact that, okay, this guy has gone to one MUN club event and he's written MUN in his personal statement.
Right, it gets
Um,
repetitive.
so you need to be really, really careful. And if you can, I know we're all we're changing and we have different ideas and passions and interests. But if you are at a stage that you're interested in a certain subject area, doesn't have to be academic. It could be something that's like it could be very entrepreneurial. It could be very like climate change or activism. Don't know the right word for that. Something that's really a global challenge and you're really keen to solve or look into or research about. You don't need to stick to the kind of the frame that's extracurricular activities, which only happen after school between, I don't know, at our school we had between 2:30 to 3:30. It's not important to just do that. It's anything that you're interested in. I would say what you want to display in a university application is your passion, your interest, your drive. Why do you want to study this? How does this relate to you as a human being? What are the key traits? What are the skills that you possess or want to possess, which makes sense for you to pursue this degree? How are you going to bring value to the university? Are you going to, leave uni with a stamp and just go away? Or are you going to be continuously like, your name is going to be on the, New York Times Square or something like that? How are you going to be making a splash in the world? And it doesn't have to be at a scale of, millions or billions of people. It just has to be at least you're trying to do something which is going to affect some group of people. I always go back to community because I think that is something that drives me the most. And I think that it should be something that drives you the most as well, because there's a type of motivation that you get when you're helping and supporting and being surrounded by people that you can't get from any other task. It's great to be going on to Coursera and doing these like online courses, but if you're sitting together in a classroom and learning together, or even in a common room and discussing a topic, that kind of energy is just, it's impossible to replicate. So yeah, find ways to motivate yourself, discover your passions and interests, and really showcase that when you're applying to uni. And just to kind of like plug away, because of course, as a hustler, you have to keep plugging. We've also launched a new kind of series on ZNotes, which is called #GetToUni. And what we're trying to do is bring distinctive courses from all over the world. Really, we started with the UK. Speak to two very key people, I think, in this kind of seminar type of thing. One is a professor or faculty member of that course, and the other is a current or alumni student, because together you can learn a lot about what that course is going to be like. You can ask the student real questions. How does it feel like? What are you doing? How do you study? What do the exams feel like, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's a much more human kind of interaction, much more conversational than what you would get, for example, at, I don't know, on a uni website, or even when I remember back when I was at school, I used to get a few unis coming in. I think CIS must have that as well, where unis come to present to their students.
Yeah, we do.
That's nice, but a lot of the times the people who are coming to present are from the marketing department. They're from the student recruitment department. So they don't really, I don't want to like say anything negative, but they're there to get you to their uni. How are you going to find out something that's specific about a course or a program at that university? That's really, really important, I think, and something I wish I had when I was applying to uni, because I had zero ideas about what I was getting into. But yeah, so that's something we're doing as well. So you can keep a lookout for that when we keep scheduling.
Yeah, I think it's really important that you mentioned that a lot of these universities would give you like the university experience, but what's really important as well is how you're going to experience your course itself, and not like just the city or the university campus. And a lot of times you have like people looking at rankings, which is absolutely fine, but you also need to see where your course, ranks in that specific university campus. However, Ivy League level it would be, or if it's even a community college, it depends on how you like your course and how you're going to develop from that specific course rather than the city itself. So yeah, I think like the get to the get to uni
Hmm.
initiative, right? Yeah. So
I did
that's
actually.
great.
I think you have one episode up already with
Yeah.
UCL Math. I did
Yes.
get to see it, and what I liked is you had a student who gave his perspective not only on the course but how he adjusted to the
Right.
environment. Because most
Yeah.
of us choose to travel abroad for universities, and other than just the course, for us we have difficulty managing. We move to another country. Some people have a change in language. Did you have to face any of that there, and how did
Yeah.
you?
But I obviously, it was probably one of the few times I'd actually left my family for longish periods of time. We're
Yeah.
quite close knit,
Mm.
so it was a shock. But also, in some ways, I think school prepared me quite well for this and I think CIS would be similar in the sense that you're international school, you're meeting people from all over the world, you're primarily communicating in English. Um, you're probably your name says Cambridge. You have British values associated within
Yeah.
your school.
Definitely.
So it makes, I think, we are all, as at international school, we're privileged to have a very, very diverse perspective on the world. We have been exposed to some amazing friends who've come from all over the world. You've been exposed to culture and language and music and art, and I first of all, just to recognize that you have all this and be grateful for it, and second of all, that kind of makes you almost like a completely adaptive to whatever situation you're put into. So yeah, uni was like coming to London, of course, was a bit of a shock, but also it kind of got really used to. You have to be confident. We have to be very open to the different ways that people are going to meet you and talk to you. But like, I remember the first few weeks of uni is always like everyone is coming and talking to you and asking for your Facebook or Instagram details. Like, oh, I want to talk to you. And then after like a couple of weeks, no one knows you know the 5 or 10 people you actually made friends with. But it's a if you are, I know this, I need to like I want to kind of mention because we're different human beings. We have different personalities. We have different uh, ways of interacting. Some of us are introverts, some are extroverts, some are really open to being really like engaging with friends, some are like a little bit reserved. And with the current lockdown situation, I don't even know how to explain it because it's a completely different environment. You no longer have the physical interaction that you would usually have if you were ending up at uni. So adapting to the changing environment and learning about the new social etiquettes and environment that you're being pushed into is tough, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, we're humans, resilient. We've survived a whole bunch of things. I think we can easily make do with traveling around the world and maybe put on a couple more jumpers. But yeah, you can survive.
It's a
Yeah, I
good
don't
way to
think
look at
anyone
it.
saw like the lockdown coming in and all the distance
Yeah.
learning covering like one third of your academic year. So like for someone say who hasn't ever experienced a lockdown, which is like one in a 7 billion, what should they seek to like experience in post 16 before like you're stuck at home and have to start doing your lessons? What is the main experience of post 16 in your opinion?
Would you, just to clarify, when you say post 16, do you mean like my kind of my last few years of school, or
Your
are you
final
going?
years
Right.
of
So
school.
what
In our
wouldn't you
school,
miss
it's year
out on
12.
your post 16? Like okay, students, you have to try out this and this.
I don't know, like I'm not exactly sure what I would tell you. Like, just if you're at school, then you're probably not a lot of things are going to change in terms of your environment. You still need to be you're still quite constrained by the place where you're at, your parents, your family, and the things that your school offers. I would just, I one thing I've learned along the way is that I love as many experiences as possible. Um,
Right.
I These are the things that make me me. People I've met, the places I've been to. I love traveling. I love going out for my runs and exploring new parts of the world. I love doing new things like things like rock climbing or hiking, or I just immerse myself in different situations and environments as much as I can, because there's so much to learn. I think traveling is the biggest thing, and it's the one thing
Right.
that's been hit the most. So it's
Yeah.
tragic. This was the
Mhm.
time when I really wanted to be like roaming around the world and like discovering new cultures and people.
Yeah,
And yet
yeah.
here I am, still in a beautiful city. I'm in Cambridge, so it's gorgeous out here. But still, you want to be meeting more people and having more and more experiences and connections throughout your life.
Fair enough.
So post 16, I'd say just continue to, like, you're now at a position where you've matured enough to kind of understand why you're studying and what your objectives are. You've probably started to refine some of your interests into passions,
Mhm.
and you are in a mental capacity, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a biological sense, but you're much more ready to learn a lot of new things. So push yourself, try some new stuff out, learn new skills. I think I learned a whole bunch of, like, at the time I was stuck to my computer. I remember doing Photoshop and web development along that time. So
Right.
learn new skills, expose yourself to different things that you can learn from and get immersed into.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite things about ZNotes, apart from the fact that it's got my back to exams, is your motto, which is one of the first things we see, which is for the students, by the students. It's
Mhm.
it's great. It creates a sense of community. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I presume it comes with its own difficulties because whilst we do get very inspired and stuff, there is a mindset that goes, hey, you're kids and you're going to teach me. Young entrepreneurs, or rather student entrepreneurs, are not easily accepted, and your entire team is just student and student entrepreneurs. Did you have to face that, and what advice would you give to our aspiring student entrepreneurs?
Yeah, there is obviously prejudice and a little bit of, like,
Mm,
shade that's thrown around when you're gonna be like a 17-year-old walking into a board meeting and be like, I have an idea
true.
that I want to share with you. Um, but that's something historic, right? We can't change that. And there are two parts to this. First part is obviously, there's a difficulty for adults to be able to respond to very young people coming in and telling them what to do. But you must understand that if you were in the same situation, you'd probably be feeling a little bit like intimidated as well. And the second part is that while we're student entrepreneurs, we can't forget what the kind of generation above us has and is doing for us. Yes, we have some incredible ideas. We are at the forefront of technology. We know we were born and we were using iPads to watch YouTube videos. So we know a lot about tech, and we know a lot about how young people interact and meet and talk. Um, but we also have a lot to learn. We don't always know the deep governance rules. I think when I had I think I was immersed in just learning about legal stuff for a couple of months when I first went out to, like, form kind of companies and learn about legal structure, and I'm like, whoa, this is something that you never know about. So balance it. Yes, it's challenging as student entrepreneurs to go out there and be heard by the right people, but remember, there's a lot that's happening that you don't know about. So be open to criticisms, be open to advice. And I think one of the key things that has helped me get to where I have is a whole bunch of really, really amazing mentors. um, those include, of course, my parents, who have always championed me, but also people who are around me, my academic mentors, my business, legal. All of these people are really, older men, older women. They're much. They're not in the same generation as us, but they are advising me and making me become who I am, helping Xenos transform into what it is. In general, though, for student entrepreneurs, yeah, keep an open mindset, be ready for criticism and advice. Don't backlash, don't have a combative or, assertive sense to yourself. It's all about building something together. It's been challenging, sure, but I think I've gone in with a mindset of openness and learning, and that's meant that in a lot of situations where I've been presenting to adults, I've never felt like less or more. I've always felt like an equal.
All right. Okay. So we're nearly coming to our last 20 minutes of this amazing webinar
Yeah.
that we've had so far. Uh, I'm sure our students and teachers, parents as well, have been waiting for this. We're going to give you a set of questions that the Cambridge community has asked,
Hmm.
and you can just try at your best shot to answer them. It
Okay.
can be as brief as possible, doesn't matter. So, Raksha, do you want to start your first question?
Yeah, so my first question is from Akshara. She asked how to get into the mindset of studying and stay focused and to avoid procrastination.
Good question. And something I still am learning on how to do. A combination of having a very good, as I said before, a good plan to know what you want to do at what time. Making yourself comfortable. I like to sit in front of a window and have my table all set out neatly, have my perfect stationery, have a cup of tea, maybe have a little bit of ambient music playing in the background. But make yourself comfortable, have a plan, and just try to remember that this isn't like, it's not probably an overused phrase, but like, so it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's like a slow progression of, gradually studying and learning.
All right. Okay. So I'll start off with my set of questions. So Mr. Samer asks, is it worth the extra premium to go to a higher ranked university? And if so, what are its benefits?
Interesting. I don't want to go into a debate kind of environment, but there's, at the end of the day, higher education institutions are formed. They make profit, they make money because of the branding you get, right? I went to UCL because I was a top ranked university. I'm associated to Cambridge because it's one of the world's best universities, and that name is very prominent. It makes a lot of differences to employers, to people around the world. So the premium is for the branding. It does make a bit of, there obviously are benefits because you do get some of the top ranked lecturers and professors and the faculty as well. So when I was meeting my department and I was speaking to my professors, they were leading researchers in their fields. There were people who had published hundreds of papers and written textbooks upon textbooks. So I think that kind of faculty exposure you will not be able to get if you were, unfortunately, at less ranked universities. It doesn't have to be. I don't want to be like judgmental or just restrictive. You can get an incredible experience at any type of university. But yeah, that's one thing, because faculty, more advanced faculty are kind of taken by more higher ranked universities.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as a UCL graduate, I'm sure that you've had like facilities and lab equipment and the state-of-the-art technology that you could work with as a student that only very few people would go on to work in, say, their PhDs and etc.
Well, as a math student, I didn't really get to do a lot of practical work, but exposure to the right faculty. And yes, we have like things like, I don't know, supercomputers around in our basements and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a benefit that you only get from a university that has that strong research. And I've always, you living in London and having a university who's able to provide you like facilities to, I might be talking a little bit too much about it, but societies and things and activities that you can do aside from studying, that's super crucial as well. So it's a combination of the facilities that they provide, about the kind of educational kind of standard that they are at. So the examinations of a certain math exam here at this university to that university varies as well, depending on the rank of the university. So there are a lot of factors, but I don't want to go too deep in that, I don't think.
All right, fair enough.
Right. The next question is, what is more important in regards to career, success, networking, or higher qualification?
All of the above. Well, it's a combination, right? You can't. Networking is crucial. A lot of what's happened to ZNotes is because I've met the right people at the right time. And I've kind of like knock on their doors and somehow I've been connected with the right people again further up the chain. Higher qualification, a little bit, yeah, if it directly relates to what your success is about. So my math degree hasn't exactly contributed directly to ZNotes, but probably has made me a much stronger problem solver. And that's probably helped ZNotes. So it's a combination. I wouldn't say that there's one or the other.
Okay.
Right. So now someone else asked, I didn't really get the name, but will ZNotes provide marked past papers? And I think we've seen your webinar series where you go through past papers, but would ZNotes provide marked past papers?
Another thing on our cards. So we're currently working a lot. We have some incredible volunteers. We're doing some live video lessons where they're doing, going through difficult questions of past papers online in a live YouTube situation. We also have ideas of where we also in some notes, sets of notes, we actually have some solved past paper questions as well, because that is super informative. It kind of gives you a lot of information about that specific topic. But also there's something that's in progress that we're thinking about doing, which will hopefully include solve past paper questions, as well as a whole bunch of other resources to every single component of the note, so that it's like, hey, ZNotes is great. I got the definition, but actually I don't understand the concept completely. Can you help me and suggest something that's useful for me to read, watch, practice, or do, something like that? And you click on something and it'll be like, all right, cool. This is a 30-second video that I can watch on YouTube, which will explain the concept very well for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. A
Right.
lot of times we have in our IGCSEs, AS levels, and A levels where we have to mention those specific keywords and write in the format that the examiner wants us to. So I think ZNotes perfectly sums that well, where you guys give not only the revision bullet points but also a structure as to how to write the question.
Mm.
So like how would you sort of get students to balance out like not only the theory but also a way of implementing and applying those revision bullet points into their examination?
Well, that's a tough one, because if we're providing notes and then we expect students to do something with it, it's a little tough, right? My but my kind of like advice has always been that these are starting points for you. The resources are almost like we're trying to gather the best information out there, put it very concisely in a format that's really easy and accessible, so that you don't need to go out and do the research yourself. And we verified it by using the best students in the world and have moderators. But at the end of the day, you won't pass your exams if you just memorize a bunch of notes, or you might pass your exams, to be honest. That's possible as well. But if you really want to understand and inculcate the knowledge into your brain and be able to then use it, in other examinations or in other courses in university, then you probably need to do a lot more. You need to be really understanding the concept. And to do that, you should try, writing up notes, doing other kind of past paper questions, trying to do as much as you can on that front.
Very bad lighting.
No problem.
Right.
True,
So
true.
right.
And the next question is actually one of my favorites that have come in. It is, what according to you is the most efficient and the quickest way to revise?
Another great question, which has no correct answer. It's personal. It's up to you how you revise. I would definitely advise against rote memorization, because if it will stick in your brain for a couple of hours, maybe enough for the day. But really, if you want to go on to be taking that knowledge and applying it in other situations and contexts, it's a lot of effort and a lot of time that you're spending, which is kind of going to go to waste. So now remember, I'm not talking about memorization. I think memorization is an art. It's a skill that lots of people learn and are really great at, and it's part of what makes us do great stuff as well. In some of our knowledge is memorized, but some of our knowledge is more, hands-on applicable. Most efficient way is to consistently revise. That's my thing.
Right.
Right. All right. So Miss Anureka asks, and I think she's a teacher, how can I get my children to do more work? And maybe I should paraphrase it a little bit here just to edit it out. What would inspire young students to go out and like drive themselves to do work?
Goes back to something I said earlier. It talks about passion. We need to be passionate about whatever we're trying to study. And I know it's hard, but I know a lot of people be like, why do I need to do trigonometry? Where the hell am I going to use that in my life? Connect it, make it relevant. Motivation has lots of strands. There's obviously the motivation that comes intrinsically because you have an interest in something. So you're going to spend hours poring over Wikipedia articles and YouTube videos to understand a concept. If you don't have that, then you need to make it relevant. All right, I don't really like trigonometry, but actually, you know what? I want to go out and become an architect, and I want to design beautiful buildings. And to do that, I need to know what sine, tan, and cos mean. Okay, so that's part of it. And the third thing is community. And I love talking about this because this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot and writing a kind of a proposal for as well. The community is a key part where when things aren't, you can't motivate yourself because it's you don't really have the interest there, and you can't find a relevance to what you want to do. When you have people around you who are facing the same problem and need to get across and do that to get to that point of knowledge or achievement or whatever, it's amazing to have a group of people around you. So what ZNotes is trying to encourage is community-led learning. So yes, we're all in this together. We want to learn this. But if we study together, if we motivate each other, if we have accountability because one or the other is going to kind of ask us, hey, Zubair, did you study today? oh man, I was a bit tired, but thanks for reminding me. I'll do that tomorrow morning. And so that sense of accountability, that sense of community, that whole kind of energy happens when a group of people come together.
Right.
Okay, so Ghania asked, why did you choose not to put a membership fee on ZNotes, and why did you choose to keep it free for all students?
Well, because probably because of my bringing up, I've always known that we, and many of us are listening today, we have an internet connection, we have access to somewhere to live and eat and breathe. We are going to international school. We're privileged. We have that financial, social, geographical mobility to do this all. And it is important to remember for those who don't have that. And so from the get-go, it was always, this is a social mission. We're on a mission to end educational inequality for young people everywhere. And that was it. There's no other explanation for that.
Right. I think
That's a
we're
great
out of
one.
questions here. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Joshua, do you have another one? Go ahead.
There's just one that's come in from Hassan. He's asked, what is the process behind updating ZNotes when there's a change in syllabus?
Good technical question. So we have, first of all, we kind of are tracking when syllabus updates are happening, so we know when our one set of notes are kind of due for updates. We tend to look for contributors who want to update the set of notes. We look at our own skill set. If it's a subject that's quite common, we will do it ourselves. If not, we will look for someone who's like, for example, it's AS psychology. We don't really know what this kind of subject matter too well, so let's find someone outside the team to help us. They sit together, we look at the syllabus, we look at the changes that need to be made, and we make the changes. So and obviously there's always a moderation process, so we need to make sure that the content is verified, it looks correct, and then it's uploaded onto the internet.
Right. I also have another question from my side. Sorry, Rasha, but
Go ahead.
see now, like, it's another technical question where you have a bunch of information, right, from subjects all across the plate. So how would you convert all that bulk of information into simplified forms and have them illustrated? Do you get like a team together and simplify those technical lexical language into simple words for our students?
Well, it's a lot of like effort actually. What we've tried to do with our platform, and it's again evolving and trying to grow into something much bigger than what it is right now. We were very stuck on kind of Word documents and PDFs back in the day because that's how I did my stuff. But we're trying to evolve to a much more dynamic system, and our content is being displayed in a dynamic form, and it also makes it much easier to edit and update and fix little bits of the sets of resources. So that's where we are at currently, in kind of like a little bit of a transitionary phase right now. But as kind of like talking about how do we kind of simplify stuff. So we have a certain set of guidelines that we put together, almost come to like, it's not something that is like we sat down and worked on it and then ZNotes began. It's actually something that's come across over the period of its existence. We realized some key bits that are really important to get a set of notes right. You know, we need to get definitions in, we need to get some examples in, we need to get a certain set of things in. We need to use clear diagrams, we need to use this, that. So there are a set of guidelines that we've put together, which we share to our new contributors, and that kind of verifies the consistency across it all. And of course, the in-house team is the one who kind of finally puts the check on everything and makes sure that it's gonna, you know, it in that ecosystem of resources that we've created, it actually fits perfectly well. So the short answer is that we've come up with a set of rules for ourselves to make sure that our content is always in the best possible form.
Right. I think we're good for today. Thank you so much, Zubair, for joining on behalf of CIS. I thank you very much for agreeing to do this. I know Jan and I have had a lot of fun hosting this, and it's definitely fueled us with a lot of motivation and inspiration going forward. We extend our gratitude to your team, especially Pagaz and Aishwarya, who've been very supportive throughout the process. And we look forward to meeting with you probably in our campus sometime in the future and addressing our crowd then.
Absolutely. One day I'll fly to Dubai.
Be fun. Get on the campus and just get people's
Thank you so much.
questions in.
It was super fun. And again, yes, my team is an incredible bunch of people who make this all happen. So kudos to them. I hope everyone has got something useful out of it. Remember, I am not the source of truth. I am just someone who's also very much like you, learning, experiencing, and causing problems, and also finding a solution sometimes. So take what I've said as a voice. It could be good, it could be bad. Feel free to reach out to the ZNotes team. We have a Discord server where you can join and kind of study together. We have a whole bunch of stuff going on in terms of live events, and we're just trying to have fun while we study and get to do something good in the world. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you both of you for asking some good questions.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Zubair.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.